Hey, what's up, y'all? We had a question from top of the funnel, so I wanted to record a quick response and share some thoughts. So Willow asked, has anyone experimented with or made a concerted effort to produce and publish AI generated content? She asked, were the results good? Can this be a good way to pressure test some ideas for topics slash keyword clusters in real time? So basically, should we use AI to spin up a bunch of content and publish it to sort of test the waters from an SEO perspective and see if it's worth putting forth some human effort? Um, I think this is such an interesting question. Obviously, this is a super hot topic in our space. Just for sort of full disclosure and all that stuff. I am not anti AI. I'm a fan of using AI. We use AI for a lot of our work. We do not generally use AI to actually write the content, but sort of all of the supporting and surrounding steps. And also, real quick, I want to just give a shout out here to Nanad. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that correctly, for sharing his hands-on sort of real-world experience doing this. So let me try to answer your question, Willow. I think first of all, the short answer is yes. I think it can be a really smart strategy in the right way. Okay, so I think using AI to generate a bunch of content, use that content to sort of gauge, hey, is there sort of an opportunity here? Do I have a play, an opportunity to rank really well? Can be really smart. My caution, my feedback would be to be careful about sort of the size and scale. So what I mean by that is, use it as sort of a controlled experiment rather than, hey, we're going to spin up hundreds or thousands or millions of pages of content and just sort of see what sticks. From everything that I've seen, I have not attempted this personally. With sort of the latest version of AI, I've done lots of like programmatic and content spinning stuff back in the day, but my understanding from sort of this generation of AI and sort of the changes that have been happening with Google and things like that is that it works in sort of a controlled way, assuming that your goal is ultimately to replace that content, if and when possible, with human generated content. So a couple of things I want to sort of reference there as we discuss this. So one quick shout out to our friend Nate Matherson, who runs Positional, who's also a sponsor supporter of Top of the Funnel. But it just so happens that he also shared this tweet, which I think is really informative. So this is looking at an example of a site that was, sort of built 100% using ChatGPT, AI generated content. And of course, you can kind of see the pattern here, right? It blew up, tons of traffic, and then there's sort of a collapse. And so I'm really not surprised by that, based on sort of what we know about Google and how they're sort of going after AI content right now. They don't have a way to reliably detect AI content, but they can use sort of their existing signals and other ranking factors to try to target sites that sort of, let's say abuse AI as sort of a mass content generation strategy. And so, of course, usually you'll see on Twitter or whatever, people will post these case studies of, hey, I built this AI site, look, it took off, and they'll show, the first half of this chart, but they never show that second part. And I'm sure, not every single site in the world has been sort of impacted by this. But nevertheless, I do think this is a pretty common story when you're thinking about sort of mass content generation. So why does that happen? What is sort of the mechanism that causes this? My hypothesis is that it's related to this helpful content update. So Google rolled this out, and let's sort of get wonky here for a second on Google's guidelines and what they've said about AI. So as I said before, I am skeptical that they have a very good or reliable way to detect AI content versus human content. That's an ongoing challenge for everyone. So I don't think that Google can spot AI content immediately or anything like that. But what I think they can do is sort of look at sort of the quality and depth of the content and the quantity of the content and make an educated guess about sort of how useful that content is for humans. So a couple things to focus on here related to the helpful content update. One is, again, focus on people first content. So Google has explicitly said they don't really care how the content is created. It can be created by AI. But obviously, what we're talking about here is technically, I would say, probably in this gray area or in sort of the no zone, according to Google, which is that it's sort of search first, right? We're creating content explicitly to target search engines, that's sort of a gray area in my opinion, right? That's what SEO is in a lot of cases, but nonetheless, I think the takeaway here is that if you're using AI to generate content and that content is helpful and useful to humans, then that's totally fine. I don't think Google really cares. I think where you run into trouble is, again, if you're using it to spin up hundreds or thousands of pages of content and sort of throw it at the wall and see what sticks, kind of a strategy. That's where it's sort of questionable whether that content is in fact useful for humans. And so the way that this update works, this helpful content update, and we don't really know exactly how much impact this has at this point, but essentially this is the key thing to take away is this update introduces a new site-wide signal that we consider among many other signals for ranking web pages. So what that means is that Google is essentially looking at all of the content on your site, and ostensibly bad content, thin content, weak AI generated content, let's say, will or could weigh down even your best pages, right? So let's say you've got 10 really great pages of content that humans have agonized over and really created, and they're really great, and then you spin up 1,000 pages of really thin basic content with AI and you publish it on your site. In theory, that could kind of weigh down your entire website from a ranking perspective. So again, this is where I think using a controlled approach is really important. I would not recommend, my personal opinion, if I were doing this for my business or for a client, I would not recommend that you use AI to go out and spin out a bunch of content. What I would do is probably like some kind of a rolling test strategy. So, maybe you spin up 10 or 20 pages of AI content, publish it, let it sort of mature or sit on the page for a certain amount of time, 2-3 weeks, whatever it is. As you said, sort of see what is the most successful, go back in, update, maybe delete some of the content that didn't perform, sort of clean up that round or that cycle of the experiment, and then move on to the next one. So again, rather than doing sort of a mass publishing strategy, I would recommend a more controlled approach, assuming that you're looking forward to a long-term sustainable growth, content that's going to perform over time, and you're really using this to kind of test the waters, but you're looking to actually invest in that long-term growth and sustainable SEO success. I would do something like that rather than, again, kind of a mass production, publish 1,000 pages all at once kind of strategy. Those are my thoughts on using AI to sort of test the waters and spin up content for SEO purposes. Hopefully that's helpful. Let me know what other questions you have, and yeah, thanks for being a member of Tofu, Willow, and thanks for your question. Cheers.